Hey, I'm gonna real quick. Um, I know that Ember put this out on Facebook, so just in case people are like waiting, I'm gonna tell her that you don't know. Okay.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Nevada County Community Library's third annual Local Author Showcase. As you can see, this year looks a little different than past years, but we're so glad we're able to come together again and still offer a great week of programming and discussions with local authors. So today's webinar is all about our local picture books. So our youth librarian, Jill Davidson, is going to be our facilitator for the evening. So I will go ahead and hand it over to her.
Hi, everyone. We're super lucky tonight to have Megan Joyce and Shelby Gilbert with us today. So I'll just talk a little bit. I'll give a brief bio on each of our children's authors here. So we have Shelly Covert is the spokesperson for the Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan Tribe. She sits on the Tribal Council and is the executive director for the California Heritage Indigenous Research Project, or CHIRP, nonprofit organization. She co-wrote, and then you, Shelly, I'm gonna try it, but you can help me out if I...
Okay, you try it.
Okay. Anito opek bet peyom.
Pretty close. Anita Opek Betayim Payom.
Okay, and
Good, yeah.
you sound so amazing. It's so beautiful when you see it.
Oh, thank you.
With the linguist and illustrator Sherry Tatch this year through a grant from the U.S. Institute of the Museum and Library Services facilitated by the Nevada County Library. So we're really excited to learn more about that. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And up in Truckee, we have Megan Jost, and Megan started watercoloring for fun after she took a class at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo while getting her degree in architecture. After graduating, she accepted a job in Truckee, California. She just finished out the summer doing a full schedule of Truckee Tuesdays. And what really stood out to her at all those events were the children's reaction to her artwork. She said, "I loved seeing their little faces light up when they saw their favorite animal." This led her to create an ABC book combining her two favorite things, her family and the wonderful we live. So thank you both so much for being here tonight. So I'll just go right into the questions and we'll get started. So Megan, do you want to tell us about your recently published work and what the writing process was like? And if you were paired with the illustrator, but I think you are the illustrator, so we'll skip that part. If you want to tell us about your recently published work, that would be great.
Sure, yeah. So last year I created ABC Truckee, and it all started from living here and doing the Truckee Thursdays. Every Thursday I spent in the summer downtown and just hearing different stories from people and vendors and thinking about like how I could incorporate it into my artwork. And then I'm always thinking about kids because I've got two little ones running around. So it was fun just to incorporate the two places, like the place I live in and I'm growing to love. I've been here about 7 years now. I used to come up as kids and visit, and it's just always been a really special place to me. But yeah, so I did the ABC Truckee book, and then more recently, about 2 months ago, I came out with ABC Tahoe. So that one, you know, I try to incorporate everything around Tahoe, different areas, keep it pretty equal, about, you know, balancing different aspects of history while keeping it fun with the kids and just different things that, you know, everyone from locals to tourists could appreciate. So yeah, it got a little broader when I went to the ABC Tahoe book, but it's been going great.
That's great. And what about you, Shelly? Can you tell us about your recently published work?
Sure. So Anita Opek was my mom's, you know, quote unquote, her Indian name, that the old Indian ladies, what they called her. So she was orphaned at 2 years old, and raised by someone she only knew as Auntie. And so she didn't have a connection with her family. She was part Nishnaan and part Miwok and part Hawaiian. And so that's the name. She was raised on the Auburn Reservation. And that when she was little, she's talking about the old ladies. They were like 100, like, people lived so long. And but those old ladies called her Ani To'o. And we'd been trying to translate that. And we know that Ani is dear one. And the rest of it has been, because a lot of names don't translate easily, but so it was something, and she said they would always pat her and say, Ani, Ani To'o. And so the book is based on her as the character. And it's Ani To'opek, Bete and Bayom, which is, it's her special dance. It's her special dream. It's a special dream that she's having. And it's really just comes from some of my own inner wishes and desires that I remember from when I was a child, imagining when I'd hear the old Indian stories, about this place and these people here. It's so far from where we are today that it really feels like maybe a movie or a dream, where the streams and mountains and land and air and animals that are all here, that we're all equal. And that they're these, the humans in those old stories are always the dumb ones. And we're always looking to the animals and the spirits in the land to educate us. And so really it's her journey with the animals that was the little kernel where I based this story on Grandma. It's her having the experience, and then a lot of my own dreams and goodies, I guess you could call them, wrapped within the story.
Great. So, Shelley, we can start with you. What inspires you to write, and why picture books opposed to writing for adults, or what led you to picture books?
Yeah, well, the whole author showcase thing, we were discussing this a little earlier before we started recording, and I don't see myself as an author yet. Like, that has yet to sink in. I write a lot. I do a lot of writing out of necessity, like talking about history here and the people, and really trying to package that to get, kind of like what I was saying, to get across, like, it's a different culture, but on this place. So I do a lot of that kind of writing, articles and things like that. I enjoy writing, but maybe there's just a lot of internal thing around it that I don't see myself as a writer. So, of course, the picture book makes it a little more, at least for me, accessible. Maybe not so many words, but the true core of the inspiration came from the grant, and we wanted to talk about language. And I'm like, well, what a great thing. People keep asking, because we don't have any fluent speakers left in the tribe. And we're trying to revitalize this language that they called extinct for a long time, which was contrary to me hearing Grandma and Grandpa sitting around talking about things and singing songs. And so it's really was that moment to share, like, how do we approach language and make it accessible? And, it seemed like a really perfect fit. I did not illustrate it. Our linguist did. So she had another life before she was a linguist, where she was in the art world and was an artist. So it was a good pairing. But I felt that, and especially coming to children, like you were saying, Megan, like seeing their little faces, like there's so much interest, and I feel it, you get with kids and it sparks that in them. And to see the desire that, like, it also helps me because I see what we're offering has value for that generation and for kids. And hopefully it touches something in them that they grow up with and it stays inside of them. So while it felt a little less daunting, it's a children's book. It still was, if it had been for adults, I think it would have been the same exact path. I don't know why it just felt a little bit, maybe like kids would be a little more forgiving, maybe if I messed up or did something wrong. I don't know. But that was the reason. And then the grant, of course, paid for the creation of the book, and now it's going out to all the schools. So it's just been really exciting.
Yeah, that's great. It's great to have it in the hands of our local kids. That's really exciting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Megan, what about you? What inspires you to children's books and work?
Yeah, definitely my sons. I've got a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, and just being around them. I think I started developing the first book when my littlest one, when I was home with him for the first few months, and that was just like our special time, was reading books to him. He just wanted, we'd read, 10, 15 books a day, just more, more, more. And that was also the time when he napped, I could finally paint more. And so our connection, that definitely developed during that time when he was really little. And then I think just the Trekkie Thursdays, really, when I was out in the community and seeing these little faces walk by. Because when I did that, I only had my artwork up on display, and I was selling, canvases and prints, and every little kid would just stop by. The elephant's my favorite. My favorite's the fox. And so I was just seeing that, that light in their face, and it's like, how can I keep this going, but incorporate Trekkie? So that was the inspiration there. And then why children's books is because I'm an artist, and that's, not too many adult books or picture books anymore. So yeah, that's why.
That's great. So for your picture books, Megan, what came first, the words or the pictures, when you were doing, the art and putting the, the text together with it?
Yeah, I started with a list of, I wrote out every letter, and my husband and I spent a lot of time coming up with words, and we come up with maybe 5 for each letter, and then I'd narrow it down. So I'd get a list going, the words, came first, but then when I was trying to decide on a letter, it was definitely the images that would, make my decision, like what would, be fun to paint and what would be interesting for a kid to look at, as well as like a balance of, I wanted, a balance of places, and I wanted a balance of people in there, and animals and history and landmarks that, you could go visit and see yourself. And yeah, so just trying to balance all those things.
That's great. And what about you, Shelley? When you guys were starting this book, were the pictures first, or did you guys do the writing first? How did that work out?
Well, the writing came first, and it's really interesting. I'm a musician, so I've written songs, for a long time, and I like the tunes always pop right in my head, and I've been really lucky in that way. And I've always had a hard time with the lyrics. Like, I just want to make everything rhyme. So it starts sounding really, rhymey or simple. But it was sort of the same thing with the book, the idea. I like to do I do everything in my head first. I absolutely had the story, not so much the exact words laid out, but I knew the sequence of events that was going to happen. And it really, it's a lot of the ways that happen when I'm writing our traditional songs now, that those tunes are already in my head. It almost feels like cheating. I don't know what that source of inspiration is. I've been super lucky, I'll knock on wood, that those things almost write themselves. I almost feel, of course I'm the one doing it, but I feel like it's kind of like taking credit for something that I feel like it wasn't me doing it, sort of, and not to sound weird or anything, but it was the same thing with the book. It literally wrote itself in like 15 minutes. And then we went through and did the storyboards, which was a little harder because, I'm doing stick figures and stuff, and then conveying my storyboards and the story to Sherry, all in English, and that's the same way I write music, is I write it in English, and then I just hope that when we translate it and the words come, I've been so lucky that it all just fits, because they're completely, obviously, they're completely different languages. So, but yeah, it was absolutely the sort of both, I guess, the story, the pictures, and the almost like a movie in my head, and then writing the words and the dialogue. and knowing what I wanted to happen, and then, you know, working the storyboard out with Sherry. And luckily we communicated really well together, and she understood my vision. She actually put my one of my storyboard drawings is the front cover, which I'd forgotten about until it was printed, and then I was like, because I don't, you know, she loves it. I feel like I'm like, you know, but you know, it's my art, I guess. I guess that's a good thing. I'm just so hypercritical of myself. I just, but yeah, it was a really interesting process. I loved once we got to the storyboard part, like you were saying, Megan, like when you get down and you do sort of have your list and then you're trying to refine things. That moment was really kind of exciting. It was kind of crispy and like, oh, it felt really charged. And that was where I thought it was scary at first, but then it just got really fun. So it was enjoyable.
That's great. And then I have another question for you both. Megan, what, you can start on this one. What was the most difficult part of your artistic process when starting your book?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Or it doesn't have to be at the start, at any process of, you know, having, you know, creating your book. What was the most difficult part?
I think the most difficult part was actually afterwards, and like creating it into a physical, figuring out the process of making it into a physical book. But even before that, I had to think about that in formatting my images and thinking about, you know, one letter per page, you know. It was pretty difficult self-publishing. That was a, you know, very learned process that, yeah, lots of errors along the way, but I think the art part really wasn't that difficult for me. I love it. I mean, there's images I didn't use here and there. Like I'd do one and just throw it out. I just, you know, didn't want that in the book at all. But the art was more fun for me. So yeah, I didn't really have any difficulties there.
What about you, Shelley? What did you find the most difficult about the process?
Well, I think a lot of that, like what Megan is talking about, those technical things, I didn't really have to deal with much because it was a library project. So I had the librarians were there and helpful. And of course, they were monitoring the grant and all the timelines and stuff. So I was getting pushed and like, you know, we need a chick, chick, chick. So it wasn't up to me to keep myself in line, which I know is, you know, if I was doing it myself, it probably never would have happened because it never would have been good enough. It never would have been, you know, fill in the blank, whatever. But because of those timelines, but I know there were some technical things because it was too self-published. You know, the cover kept, like, no matter how much we lined it up in the software to get it published, it just came out different, like our test book and, you know, those kind of things, you know, which are very worrisome, but like we're not sitting there at the printing press, so we didn't have the full control over things like that. And then I guess because there were so many of us involved in the process, I really feel like I feel like the librarians, if it weren't for them, this of course it wouldn't have been funded, but they really kept the timeline moving, and I appreciate that so much. And I know everybody's busy now, but I'm so busy and I have so many projects where if they hadn't been pushing me, and I don't know, I just never would have done this on my own ever, no matter how awesome I thought the idea might be or how great the story was. It never, ever, ever would have happened. So, but I guess most of the hardness was inside of me, like thinking it wasn't like, who am I to be doing this? And, you know, I hope I'm not dishonoring anybody, and I hope people don't think it's weird. And you know, all the stuff that goes on. And that was hard for me. And again, I'm so glad that I had such a great, you know, I loved all the people I work with. I enjoy them as people. And, you know, we have a good enough relationship where they could, you know, like, come on, you know, do you know what day it is? I'm like, I do. But it was just, I would love to hear those questions asked to them. Like, tell us about how hard it was. But, you know, it really, for me anyway, it didn't feel hard. It just sort of happened, and now it showed up and it's getting distributed, and I have nothing to do with any of that part. So that part feels really easy too.
It's great. And either of you can answer this one. Do either of you have a favorite children's book from your childhood or now, or one that you read to your kids or family?
I have a favorite author, I guess, Eric Carle. He's got so many of them out there, and the kids just love them. Like the pictures and images are pretty simple. They're fun. Like they've all got different textures and colors, but I'd say overall that's my favorite, even growing up. So.
Shelley, do you have one you want to share, or an author?
I don't know. There are these books that I remember from being little, and I wish I could find them again. And I don't know what they are. I was just thinking about this recently. Like they really, we were just talking about the things that impact you when you're a child and what you want to share with your child, and hope they get that feeling, that you got. And I was thinking back, and of course, Dr. Seuss, was, that one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish. I was just like obsessed with that for a long time. But this other book, I was thinking I should go and try to find this book. It was, I don't even know, but I remember how I felt. Like I was pretty little, but seeing the colors and these, I think they were horses, and they were like a red, black, and a white one. I can't remember, but I would love to find it again. And then modern, Judith Lowry, who's a local, very famous Native American artist who lives here locally. She did a book with someone. They co-wrote it. It was her father's story about when they were taken away to Indian boarding school. And it's called Home to Medicine Mountain. And her colors are just, she uses these primary colors, and the way she expresses herself through paint and color is just phenomenal. And I was wishing I wish I'd seen that when I was little. Like what a different insight I would have had into my culture, because I always thought that there was nothing out there to collaborate our story and my story. It was just us. So I was always like, oh, I hope they're not wrong, but this book says this. How can Grandpa say that? It was really strange for me. And I was thinking if I just had a book or something like that to see, and how that may make other Native kids feel, seeing something so amazing like a piece like that. But yeah, I just think that, it's so important, those feelings you get when you're little, especially when your family's reading to you. There's just something, kind of solidifies an anchor for the rest of your life. I just keep thinking about those books. Like, what are those books? I've got to find them. I was trying to remember, and I'm just like, I don't know what they were. I got to find them.
Let's see. So I think we talked about the artists and illustrators that influence your work. Oh, this is interesting for both of you, I think. This is kind of the question I was just wondering. But do you guys ever hide anything in your artwork, like any images, or secrets that only like your family knows about, or any hidden things that like some people will find?
We just did the art in windows in Nevada City, and we did 5 large canvases. And there's something hidden in those canvases. And I think you'd probably see it at night. I'm not sure. I don't want to give it away. I would like to know if anybody sees it or finds it. And it's just for kind of like luck and protection. Because I felt the content was a little, maybe not for just the regular person who's not going as deep as I am. But I felt like sometimes when we're talking about old stuff or bringing up stuff that I'm always nervous. That's the way I grew up, is like be very respectful and very careful. And I'm like, oh, but yeah, I have some images on those canvases. I'd be happy to know if anybody notices them.
Oh, I'm gonna go look for sure now.
Okay, yeah, do it. I would love to.
I'll be there with my magnifying glass.
Awesome.
Looking for clues. What about you, Megan? Do you ever like hide anything? Any like Easter eggs in your artwork, or?
I haven't actually. I mean, there's things that like, my family might see that other people wouldn't. Like the most obvious one would be the front cover of both books are my boys. But like, I really like that idea. I think if I do a third book, I might start hiding stuff. I'll let you know.
I'll be looking. Okay, so for both of you, how do you handle the balance between your creative and the business ends of your work?
Oh, I wish I did it better. I really enjoy creating. It's just that, the business end of it is, in order to make it worth it for me and my family, something I just have to do. I really do like dealing. I sell my books also in stores. I really like selling them in smaller stores where I get to meet the owner. That makes it a lot more enjoyable, where I can text them in the middle of the day if they need more books, and I started making my rounds around South Lake, and it's just the scale is so much different than Truckee. So I'm trying to keep that smaller shop, knowing the owner feel. So that's, I guess, the best way I can balance. And even the printer, like, we can text and communicate regularly, and he's fine with texting in the middle of the night. And so I like that kind of, interaction, keeping it personal instead of the bigger scale. Well, where I really would not enjoy, dealing with corporate. Yeah, where I guess you lose the meaning behind the book, and yeah.
What about you, Shelley? How do you balance the creative part of your work and the business ends of your work?
Well, I mean, the book is a product, I suppose, of the work I do for the tribe. Like, being spokesperson for the tribe, I have a lot of responsibilities, and trying to figure out how, I feel like 10 years ago nobody knew who the Nisenan were because we were so erased. And, there's a heaviness of the gold rush persona here that, I've never thought ill of it. But when you realize, wow, all history doesn't start at the gold rush. There's this, thousands and thousands of years old history beforehand. So the book is really just a byproduct of that. It's another way. I'm always thinking of like, what creative ways can we, become visible again and have people learn and know about that history here. I didn't even think about, like, after the books are given in this grant, like, oh, well, like, what happens to the book after we fulfill the grant? So luckily, people, Dr. Tash, she knows these things to ask, and the librarians, of course, knew to bring these subjects up so that after the grant, we have control of the book, and that we, our nonprofit for the tribe, Chirp, can actually sell the book. But I didn't even think that far, because I'm so excited about the project. But you see these, like with my music or with the book, or that we've been doing film now. We have a couple of days of filming coming up, but it's really just like looking around, and I feel like the author thing, like, that is not me, but hey, that's a creative way, and woo, I get excited about the teaching and the learning. But again, like, if it was me doing it, like Megan is just, I just probably wouldn't do it. I have so much responsibility elsewhere, but I also at the same time am like, oh, we're onto something, because people enjoy it so much. And when you get it and you hold it like in your hand the first time, I mean, there's something that gets all starry and like, oh my goodness, like, it's real, it's a book, like, it's a big deal. But yeah, I mean, in another lifetime, maybe, and after I'm done, I would love to just, maybe I'll write more. I don't know. I don't want to just drop Ani To'ope, the character. I mean, she could go on a series of all kinds of adventures and journey that, teach us about the wisdom of being in, conjunction with the earth and the animals and all the kind of stuff that maybe people don't think about sometimes, and bringing it in this kind of format really, it does something. And we're educated. I don't have to argue with adults and like fight the points of history. Like these kids are just like, yay, and it's, it's really special. And maybe I'll just like go do this instead. I don't know.
That's great.
That'd be great. I would love
We actually have a question in the chat.
Sure, what's that?
Did either of you ever consider trade publishing?
I don't even know what that is.
I'm not sure what that is. Do you guys know?
I think trade publishing is just when the publisher owns the rights to your book and can publish pretty massively, I believe, and a lot online too, a lot of online stuff. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lisa. That is the person who asked the question. Oh, traditional, I'm sorry, not trade publishing, traditional.
Okay.
Traditional publishing.
Like getting published, like finding somebody to publish you and sending up manuscripts and stuff to. That's so funny. I forgot about that. I wrote a short story like 80 years ago and sent it off, and it got rejected, and I just dropped it. It was like some fantasy. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot about that, about a dragon. And wow, I'm so old. I can't even remember what I do in a lifetime. Some kind of larger publisher, from my point of view, something that would spread widely our visibility and our story, that would be totally awesome. Again, I guess that's why creative people have agents and managers and stuff, because I'd never pursue something like that on my own. I just don't know. Would you, Megan? I heard what you said about, the small store and.
Yeah, I started with ABC Truckee, and so I originally thought about it, but the group of people who are going to buy it is so small. It's so, you have to have been to Truckee or grown up here, have some connection. I didn't think it would be a good fit. And then I just never really thought twice about it when I did the ABC Tahoe. Tahoe would have been a, possibly one you could publish or someone else could publish. But honestly, I haven't really thought of it, and I haven't explored it either. I think even just the printing was so overwhelming for me. I felt like after I got it down and figured out the ABC Truckee, who to print with and what size and all that, where I'm going to sell it, the other one just came so much easier, and it wasn't as stressful. But I just wouldn't even really know where to start. I guess if I had guidance from someone else, possibly I'd think about it. But
if they're not going to tell them no, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Bring those offers. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Either of you want to describe your favorite writing or reading nook or place you like to go write or do your artwork? Or where's your favorite spot to do that?
I have a lot of stuff when I paint, so the furthest I've gone is outside, which is definitely my favorite. I just go sit in the backyard and stare out into the trees, and yeah, if it's quiet, if my boys aren't out there throwing balls at me. But yeah. Usually it's inside though, at a desk of some sort. What about you?
What about you, Shelley? Where do you like to write or get creative?
Well, most of the time, it's so funny. These questions are just like things I never think about, like laying in bed. Mostly that, I guess, because of the content I'm usually in. It's that little skinny spot when you're asleep awake. That little tiny slice is where I get. I have a lot of story ideas, and but the songs, the tunes that are in my head. I see how those famous musicians just all tend to go a little, you know, how they do. They like music if it's not expressed, especially right now, because I play in a band and we're not playing music. So I do feel that it gets kind of trapped in me and I don't get to get it out in the way I normally would. And I've played music since I was like 14, and so this is probably the longest I've gone without playing. So I'm feeling like this reservoir, this backed up reservoir. But so it's usually in that space where there's just an abundance of music and people like the elders and the stories and a lot of that, like what I'm missing, like I'll get pointed to like subjects that I don't think about in my waking day because I'm busy or, you know, I'm doing whatever. And it's like, oh, right. That's important. And then in my car, I mean, my little voice recorder on my phone is like my favorite thing I've got because tunes just pop in my head and I'm like, oh, or an idea or something. And I'm constantly just blabbing into my phone. And, but those are the two spots where most of that creative. Then again, I don't go sit to do this. This is really getting me excited because it's like, wow, what if this was all I was doing? Like, oh my gosh, it could be so exciting. Where would I go? What would I do? You know, maybe that's just the moments I'm captured and my brain can be like, just be quiet a minute and listen to me for a second. But I do feel it's a responsibility, like to my culture and my ancestors to listen. And so in car and in the, isn't that really strange to share with everybody?
That's great. So what's next for you? Megan, what's next? Do you have something that you're working on or some project coming up that you want to talk about?
Ooh, I mean, I've started a list for actually ABC SLO. That's where I went to school and I just love it down there. I'm not quite sure about selling down there and, you know, traveling back and forth. So I've also thought about doing an ABC Northern Nevada, incorporate all, you know, the counties up there. There's a lot of really cool history there. So that would be fun. I'm not too knowledgeable about it, so I'd need to go talk to locals and, you know, figure out my list for that better. But right now, I don't see that happening for probably another year. I'm really busy with, I do some commission artwork and I've got another job on the side and my kids. So as long as COVID is keeping us really busy with the kids, I don't think, a new book's coming really soon, but I'd love to keep going and keep doing this for a while. Another thing is, like, I love the idea that my boys could sell these books, you know, when I'm old and done with it, and, you know, they could keep it going. And so that kind of excites me too. It's just like, I gotta work, you know, make a, you know, good portfolio for them and, you know, live on through them. So yeah.
Let's see, what about you, Shelley? Do you have any projects or anything coming up that you want to talk about or mention?
Oh boy, there's so much going on. So usually we have Nisenan Heritage Day, would be this Saturday, November 7th. It's usually the first Saturday of November. And it's also Native American Heritage Month in California. And then we have this farm to table harvest fundraiser that we've been doing, which is one of our biggest fundraisers for our nonprofit. So with, you know, the restrictions on big gatherings and stuff, we decided to smash the two together into just, instead of Nisenan Heritage Day, we're doing Nisenan Heritage Month. And we're just busting out like all this online content, a lot of stuff that hasn't been shared, or, you know, projects that we did, you know, 10 years ago, 7 years ago, that nobody's really seen because we didn't have the audience and the people didn't know who we were. And so all that's going on this month. But, you know, the thing that I realized, you know, as the community steps up, and I mean, there's so much going on with social and racial justice and environmental justice and, like, you know, indigenous land acknowledgements, and people reach out all the time and they're asking for information and they want to know. And it's incredible to have a resource like this book to share. And, you know, I can't show up everywhere all the time as I want to anymore. I used to. So these resources like this book, and then I think of like, wow, all the topics we could like do, you know, and then you have this like this phenomenal resource that will outlast us. Like Megan said, like it's, you know, it's an honor to be able to, I mean, I guess, you know, it's the internet, it's the ability to self-publish. Like this probably wouldn't have happened even 20 years ago. I don't know. But you know, we always, Nevada City Ranchery and Nisenan Tribe and our nonprofit chirp, we have stuff going on all the time. So if you're interested, you know, to learn more about the tribe and you want to reach out, we've got this community gathering that is really happening. I feel that like we're this little tiny fish, especially when we're thinking about federal, like we want our federal recognition back. We had it and it was taken and now we want it back. And it's like, now our community knows, but how do you get like a senator in like Idaho or Kentucky or somewhere to know about us? And this is how, right? Like this, let's send, do you have kids? You got grandkids? Can we send you a book? You know, maybe he'll know who we are. And if someday we have legislation that comes up, they'll know who we are. And, you know, I at the very least can say, you know, in 1850, all the gold that was taken from here funded this country. That's I'm sorry, I'm so loud. That's the thread that I've figured out nationally. Like, you know, it was important. And by having this book and being able to call myself an author, I guess, because I'm not a PhD or anything like that, but being able to claim that I'm an author now actually feels good. And maybe it's got a little more listening power when people, you know, oh, she's an author. Like, that's a big deal. She's an author. Megan's an author.
Well, and then I just have one last question for the both of you. And that's, what advice do you have for any Nevada County aspiring writers?
I would say just do it. Do it. It's not like the old days where you have to do that, like shop the publisher. And I mean, it's the same with the music. Like, you know, you can record and put yourself on YouTube, and if people like you, you've got a chance. And if you've got something to say, I'm finding that sometimes it's the people who think they have the least to say are actually the ones who have something to say, and it's also really interesting. And the other folks that are out there telling everybody what it's about, you know, I mean, not to discount them in any way, but just for those of you who are more meek and maybe a little more humble like I am, you know, just do it. I bet you're really going to touch somebody. And when you think you're not going to, and you could, you know, really make a difference in what you have to say and sharing that out. And I think people should just do it. And if you're lucky, you have some people who push you and, you know, tell you that you're worthy and valuable and you can do it. And then if you're really lucky, they do some of the work for you. In my case, you know, I was really lucky, but do it. Don't be afraid. I went through the whole fear process, and I found coming out the other side was kind of unfounded. Maybe, you know, got a little tummy ache from it that wasn't necessary. So that's what I would say.
I agree a lot with what Shelley said. Just go for it. I mean, in the children's book aspect, there's so many different styles of art and stories, short books, long books, everything. You know, there's everything on my kids' shelf right now. I think that's what's really fun about children's books is that, I don't know, you don't have to fit a certain form. It can be, you know, whatever, and stay true to what you like doing. You know, I think it comes out a lot better when it's something you feel strongly about and are passionate about. But yeah, and also what Shelley was saying, it's like today it's so much more possible to do this now. There's so many different ways to even print a book and self-publish and spread it locally, or, you know, on the bigger scale with all this social media and just online technology. So yeah, I'd say go for it. If you're thinking about it, yeah, it's definitely worth it. I had no idea how successful these books would have been. I was pretty scared, like Shelley had said. It's just, you know, thinking twice about it way too many times, but I'm really glad that I did go for it and publish it. So yeah.
Yay.
There's some talk in the chat about where everyone's books are available. If you want to go ahead and say where people can find your work.
Yeah, I have mine available on my website. It's colorsbymegan.com. And I have my art and my books there. And they're also available throughout Truckee and Tahoe City. And there's South Lake. There's a few stores there. So, I mean, I could name them that if you'd like. I think like some of the best doing or selling stores in Truckee would be Word After Word Books. It's the downtown bookstore. And then Jack and Emmy's also downtown. They've been amazing. And other places like Ace and Wild Cherries. And then since I've done the Tahoe book, I've started selling them other places around the lake. So those are a little newer to me than the last month, but yeah.
And Shelley?
So right now our book is not available yet. It will actually be available. We're putting a couple in some special goodie bags for Nisenan Heritage Month. But they're going to the schools first, you know, to fulfill the grant. That was the point, to get them in as many hands of fourth graders in Nevada County school districts that we can. And after that, then we will absolutely have them available, probably in much like Megan's saying, in the smaller, you know, local stores. Right now, a lot of people are carrying our chairman Richard Johnson's book, The History of Us, which is I mean, talk about, boy, I mean, he and Dave Comstock, who helped, was his publisher, and really helped him with structure and all, you know, because he's got such a breadth of experience. But that book, once it hit, I mean, it just was incredible, the visibility that we got from all over. We just worked with the Smithsonian Institute on some high school curriculum talking about the gold rush and the Native perspective. And so, I mean, it's incredible how when you have something to put in someone's hands, you know, I mean, of course, his is factual and historic. But anyway, it will be hopefully available around. I suppose that's something I'll have to do on my own and won't be able to task the librarians with. Is like, can you get these in stores? I doubt that's part of their maybe, I don't know, they're pretty amazing. But, you know, really getting it out there. I don't even know what that path is. I have no idea where to start with that. But, and have it on our website and available at our events and things like that. And then I was going to ask Megan too, if there's time, because I've been thinking about, like, this is language, there needs to be an audio component, obviously. And I was just wondering if you had delved into that at all, Megan, with doing an audio piece, or you know how you get the audio book or the text that actually reads it for you or whatever.
I haven't, but yeah, sorry, I don't have any advice to offer.
A nice narration to your book, if you know. Yeah, I like your voice, so that would be
yeah, no, I love showing my kids those, but I haven't thought about getting into that yet.
Another thing, right?
Yeah, one more. Add it to the list.
All right. Is there anything else that either of you would like to add or let anyone know about yourself or your work?
I think, yeah, most of it's been covered. I've never talked this much about my books. It's been great. Thank you.
Well, thank you both so much for being here. And, you know, you're two talented local authors, and happy that you guys are here and joining us in our local author showcase. And thank you, Casey, for helping with the tech side of things. And is there any more questions in the chat, or are we good with that?
I don't.
Okay, so thanks. It was so nice to chat with all of you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks so much. Yeah, if, you know, go to nisenan.org. I think we're getting all high tech and stuff and trying to feed everything through there. So if anybody needs to reach out or whatever, you can find somebody there, and any information you need about the tribe. So thank you.
Thank you.
guys.
Nice seeing you guys. Bye, Megan.
Bye, Shelly. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Good night. Thank you.
Good night.